The champagne was cold when it hit my face, but not as cold as my husband's eyes when his mistress laughed. That moment, standing there, humiliated in my own home, that's when billionaire Gregory Thompson learned the most expensive lesson of his life. I'm Amber Cole, and this is how I took everything. You know, people always ask me if I saw it coming. The affair, the betrayal, the moment my entire life would flip upside down. And honestly, part of me did. But when you're building an empire, when you're so focused on success and growth, sometimes you ignore the warning signs. Sometimes you tell yourself you're just being paranoid. Sometimes you convince yourself that the man you married, the man you built everything with, would never do something so cruel, so calculated, so devastating. I was wrong, but here's the thing, being wrong about him was the best thing that ever happened to me. Before I tell you how a single drink cost my ex-husband a billion-dollar empire, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. You won't believe how this ends. Trust me, you don't want to miss a second of this. My name is Amber Cole, and 5 years ago I was on top of the world. I had built a successful tech consulting firm from the ground up, started in my tiny apartment with nothing but a laptop and a dream. By the time I was 30, I was advising Fortune 500 companies on digital transformation. I was smart, successful, and finally financially stable. That's when I met Gregory Thompson at a business conference in Miami. He was everything I thought I wanted: tall, confident, ambitious. He owned a real estate development company, and he had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. We clicked instantly. He understood the hustle, the grind, the sacrifice it takes to build something from nothing, or at least I thought he did. We got married after 2 years of dating. The wedding was beautiful, elegant, everything I had dreamed of as a little girl. And for the first year, it was good, better than good. We combined our businesses, merged our expertise. I brought the tech innovation, the forward-thinking strategies, the digital infrastructure. He brought the real estate empire, the connections, the old money network. Together, we were unstoppable. We bought a mansion in the hills, threw parties that people talked about for months, and built a reputation as the power couple everyone wanted to be. I redesigned his entire business model, implemented systems that tripled his revenue, and introduced him to investors who took his company to levels he never imagined. I wasn't just his wife, I was his partner, his equal. At least, that's what I believed. But somewhere around year 3, things started to shift. Gregory started coming home later. Business trips became more frequent. His phone was always face down on the table. When I'd ask about his day, his answers got shorter, vaguer. I'd catch him smiling at his screen, and when I'd ask what was funny, he'd say it was nothing. Just work stuff. I'm not stupid. I knew something was off. But I was busy too. I was managing 3 major projects, consulting for new clients, and trying to keep our joint ventures running smoothly. I told myself I was overthinking it. I told myself that successful couples go through phases like this. I told myself that marriage takes work and maybe we just needed to reconnect. I suggested couples therapy. He said we didn't need it. I suggested a vacation. He said he was too busy. I suggested date nights. He'd agree and then cancel last minute. The distance between us grew wider every single day, and I felt powerless to stop it. Then came that night. The night that changed everything. We were hosting a dinner party at our home, just a small gathering of business associates and potential investors. About 20 people. I had spent all day making sure everything was perfect. The food, the wine, the ambiance. I wore a dress I knew Gregory used to love. I wanted to remind him of us, of what we had, of why we fell in love in the first place. The guests started arriving around 7. Everyone was mingling, laughing, networking, and then she walked in. Nicole Bradford. Gregory introduced her as his new business partner, said she was helping him expand into commercial properties on the West Coast. She was younger than me, maybe 26 or 27, beautiful in that effortless way that makes other women instantly insecure. But it wasn't her looks that bothered me. It was the way she looked at my husband, and the way he looked at her. I watched them all night. The way he'd lean in close when she spoke. The way she'd touch his arm and let her hand linger just a second too long. The way they had inside jokes that made them laugh while everyone else smiled politely, not understanding. I felt sick. I felt invisible. In my own home, at my own party, I felt like a stranger watching my husband fall in love with someone else. I tried to stay calm. I tried to play the gracious hostess. But when I saw him refill her champagne glass for the third time while mine sat empty, something in me snapped. I walked over to where they were standing by the fireplace. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I simply said, "Gregory, can I talk to you for a moment?" He looked at me like I was interrupting something important, like I was an inconvenience. "Not now, Amber. We're discussing business. Business." He wanted to talk about business, so I pushed a little harder. "This can't wait," I said, my voice steady but firm. His jaw tightened. I saw Nicole smirk, actually smirk, like she was enjoying watching him put me in my place. And that's when Gregory turned to face me fully. The room had gone quiet. Everyone could sense the tension. "You know what your problem is, Amber," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "You can't stand not being the center of attention. You're so insecure that you have to interrupt adult conversations because you need validation." I felt my face get hot. I felt tears prick my eyes. But I refused to cry. Not there. Not in front of everyone. "That's not what this is about," I said quietly. "I just need to talk to you." He picked up his champagne glass. I thought he was going to take a sip. Instead, he threw it. Straight in my face. The cold liquid hit me like a slap. It soaked my hair, my dress, my skin. I stood there, frozen, dripping with champagne and humiliation. The room went dead silent. And then I heard it. Nicole's laugh. High-pitched, delighted, cruel. She tried to cover it with her hand, but I heard it. Everyone heard it. Gregory didn't apologize. He didn't rush to help me. He just looked at me with disgust and said, "You're embarrassing yourself. Clean up and stop making a scene." Then he turned back to Nicole like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just degraded his wife in front of a room full of people. Like I was nothing. I walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and looked at myself in the mirror. Champagne dripped from my hair onto the marble countertop. My makeup was ruined. My dress was stained. But you know what I saw in that mirror? I saw clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, I saw the truth. Gregory didn't love me, he didn't respect me, and he sure as hell didn't value me. That drink in my face wasn't just about anger or frustration. It was calculated. It was meant to humiliate me, to break me, to make me small. And standing there in that bathroom, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight for a man who didn't want me. I was going to destroy him. I cleaned myself up, walked back out to the party with my head held high, and played the perfect hostess for the rest of the night. I smiled. I laughed. I made small talk. And I watched. I watched Gregory whisper in Nicole's ear. I watched her hand on his lower back when she thought no one was looking. I watched them leave together under the pretense of discussing contracts, and I started planning. The next morning, I didn't confront him. I didn't scream or throw things or demand answers. I went to my office and started doing research. I pulled out every document, every contract, every piece of paperwork from our 5 years together. And that's when I discovered something beautiful, something he had clearly forgotten. 60% of our joint empire was built on my intellectual property, my patents, my systems, my business strategies, my connections. When we merged our companies, Gregory had been so eager to access my technology and my network that he'd signed agreements giving me ownership of the innovations I brought to the table. He thought it was just paperwork. He thought it didn't matter because we were married, because what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine, right? Wrong. I hired the best divorce attorney in the state, a woman named Helen Morris who had a reputation for leaving men broke and broken. I told her everything. She smiled. "Men like your husband always make the same mistake," she said. "They underestimate their wives. We started building my case. Every late-night text between Gregory and Nicole that I had screenshots of. Every business trip that coincided with her schedule. Every credit card charge from hotels they stayed at together. But the real ammunition wasn't the affair, it was the money. Gregory had been siphoning funds from our joint accounts. He'd created offshore accounts I wasn't supposed to know about. He'd transferred properties into Nicole's name, probably planning to claim he'd sold them at a loss during the divorce. He'd even taken out loans using my patents as collateral without my knowledge or consent. That was illegal. That was fraud. And Helen was going to make sure everyone knew it. We also discovered that Nicole was 3 months pregnant. And based on the timeline, she got pregnant while Gregory was still living at home, still sleeping in our bed, still pretending to be my husband. The affair had been going on for at least 6 months, probably longer. He'd been planning his exit strategy, lining up his next life while I was working myself to death to keep our businesses thriving. I spent 3 months gathering evidence, 3 months of pretending everything was fine while my lawyer built an airtight case, 3 months of sleeping next to a man who didn't know I was about to ruin his life. And then, on a Tuesday morning in March, I filed for divorce. Not a quiet, amicable divorce. A public, messy, explosive divorce that exposed every dirty secret Gregory Thompson had been hiding. The papers were served to him at his office in front of his entire staff. The documents outlined the affair, the financial fraud, the illegal use of my intellectual property, and the hidden assets. Within hours, it was all over the news. Billionaire real estate mogul caught in affair and fraud scandal. The headlines were brutal, and they were everywhere. Gregory called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. He showed up at the house that night, screaming, begging, threatening. I had already changed the locks. He threatened to fight me in court, said I'd never get a dime. I smiled and told him to do his worst, because here's what Gregory didn't understand. I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting for justice, and I had already won. Within a week, 3 of his biggest investors pulled out. Nobody wants to do business with a man who steals from his wife. Within 2 weeks, my patents were legally revoked from all our joint ventures. His entire digital infrastructure collapsed without my systems. Within a month, properties started getting foreclosed because he couldn't make payments without the income streams I had created. His empire was crumbling, and all he could do was watch. Nicole left him when the money dried up. Turns out she wasn't in love with Gregory, she was in love with his bank account. When that disappeared, so did she. She moved to California and had the baby alone. Gregory tried to salvage his reputation, but the damage was done. Nobody trusted him. Nobody wanted to work with him. He went from billionaire to barely scraping by in less than 6 months. The court settlement was finalized 8 months after I filed. I got 70% of everything. The house, the investments, the remaining properties, and full ownership of all my patents and business innovations. Gregory was left with legal fees that bankrupted him and a reputation so damaged he couldn't get a loan from a community bank. Last I heard, he was working for someone else's real estate company, taking orders instead of giving them. And me? I launched my own firm. No partners, no husband to answer to. Just me and my vision. Within a year, I had built something bigger and better than anything Gregory and I ever created together. I hired a team of brilliant women, most of them divorced or betrayed by men who underestimated them. We became the most sought-after consulting firm in the industry. I tripled my net worth. I bought a penthouse downtown with a view that takes my breath away every single morning. And every time I pour myself a glass of champagne, I think about that night. That moment when Gregory threw a drink in my face and thought he had broken me. That moment when Nicole laughed and thought she had won. That moment when I decided I was worth more than either of them could ever comprehend. People always want to know if I regret the marriage, if I wish I had never met Gregory. And honestly, number. Because that experience taught me something invaluable. It taught me that my worth isn't determined by how a man treats me. It taught me that silence and strategy are more powerful than anger and emotion. It taught me that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have ever happened. That drink in my face washed away every illusion I had about my marriage. It showed me exactly who Gregory was, and it freed me to become who I was always meant to be. So if you're watching this and you're in a situation where someone is making you feel small, where someone is disrespecting you, where someone is taking advantage of your kindness and your hard work, listen to me. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not defined by how they treat you. Document everything. Know your worth. Get the right people in your corner. And then, when the time is right, take back your power. That drink in my face? It was the wake-up call I didn't know I needed. It was the beginning of the best chapter of my life. If my story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories of strength and survival. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. And remember, never let anyone make you feel small, especially in your own home. I'm Amber Cole, and I took back my power. You can too.